I have plants growing in my grow tent. It's taken me a little while to get to this point, but I'm here now and plants are actively growing. If you want to see the steps I took to get to this point, well then join me today as I show you how to grow vegetables in a grow tent. Hi, I'm Gardener Scott, and this is the day I start growing vegetables in my Spider Farmer grow tent. You have a lot of options when it comes to the containers you'll be growing in. You can do pots or buckets. I'm choosing to use these grow bags that came with this Spider Farmer grow tent kit. These are perfect size to grow anything that I want to grow inside, and I have a number of them. You also have choices in the medium you're going to use, what you're going to put inside your containers. And any good quality potting mix will be perfectly fine. Do look to see that it has some nutrients in it, like fertilizers, because the plants that are growing in these grow bags are going to be in the grow tent for a few months. We want to make sure that the plants have all the nutrients they need. Now, I like to make my own blend of potting mix. So yesterday, with Mala's help, we blended up, using my recipe, a blend of potting mix to use in the grow tent. My basic potting mix recipe begins with 2 parts peat moss, 2 parts compost, and 1 part perlite. Now, you can use anything for measurement. I just use this container, and this is how I mix my respective parts of each of the ingredients. And then in this tote, I put those ingredients for mixing. So I begin by just scooping out the 2 parts of peat moss. And then to that, I add 2 parts of compost. And then to that, I add 1 part of perlite. Because I have my own earthworms creating worm castings, I also this time am adding half of a measurement of the worm castings to this basic mix. And to ensure that the plants do have enough nutrients, because I'm making my mix and it doesn't come with fertilizer, I'm using a basic 3-3-3 blend of organic fertilizer. This one comes from IV Organic. Now, I am mixing dry ingredients. I highly recommend wearing a dust mask, particularly when you're mixing those ingredients inside a closed room. With everything blended, then I added water, and it ended up being about half a gallon of water to begin that initial mixing. I continued adding more ingredients until this tote's about 2/3 full of the mix, and then I just let everything sit. It takes a while for that dry peat moss to absorb the water, and after a couple hours I checked it again and I needed to add additional water because it was still pretty dry. And then I covered it up and let it sit overnight, and now it's ready to go. And so the next step is to fill these grow bags. You don't need to fill the grow bags all the way to the top. The amount of mix will vary based on what you're growing in the bag. As long as it's deep enough to support the roots of the plants you're growing, it can be half of the grow bag all the way to the top or anywhere in between. With the soil in the grow bags, now it's time to put the plants in. Now, I went ahead and grew a pepper plant, some tomato plants, and that's what I'm planning to grow. You can start seeds in these grow bags and just let the plants grow from seed through the entire course of their life. I find it a little bit easier to germinate in trays underneath lights and then move the plants into a grow bag like this. So now all we do is put the plants in the bag. So I'll take my tomato. This is a black cherry tomato. Go ahead and dig out a little space in the middle. I'm going to pinch off a couple of these lower leaves just because they're going to end up being buried. Take the plant out of the pot, just set it into the grow bag, and then just lightly firm the space around it, and this tomato is planted. Now I also grew some basil, so there's enough space in here to support a few other plants, and so in this case I'm going to separate out these couple basil seedlings and I'll put them in the side next to the tomato. So this bag will support tomatoes and basil, and it's all ready to go. I did the same thing with the other tomato, and I'll repeat the process for this pepper as well. This is shishito pepper, one of my favorites. You can see the planting happens pretty quick and it's easy. I'll put some basil in this pepper bag as well. I don't think you can have too much basil most of the year, especially if you can grow it indoors. The nice thing about these grow bags is they have the handles, so I can do this planting outside of the grow tent so that I don't make a mess in the grow tent, and then when it's time to move these, just lift them by the bag and we'll put them in the tent. Depending on the size of your container, you can fill up this floor space or just put a couple. I'm just planning to do the 4 grow bags for now. In this last grow bag, I'm planting a couple different types of lettuce. Now, lettuce is ideal for something like a grow tent. I can put these plants in from the seeds that I started, and now moving forward, I'll sow more seeds in this same bag. And so the lettuce takes 30 to 45 days typically to grow until you can harvest it. By using maybe a 2-week cycle of succession planting, I can harvest some of the lettuce, and then 2 weeks later I'll be able to harvest more, and then 2 weeks later I'll be able to harvest more. And once I figure out this cycle, I should always have lettuce available for harvest. So now all my grow bags are in the tent, and the next step is to water in these new transplants. Just a little bit of water around the individual plants. I don't need to water all of the soil because it's nice and moist from sitting overnight with the mix that I made. So once this initial watering is complete, I probably won't need to water these bags for a few days, but I will check on them every day. And now I'll adjust the lights so that the light is a little bit closer to the plants. I've had the light up out of the way while I was getting everything set up. For now, the light is set about 2 feet above all of these plants. And so plants are actively growing in my Spider Farmer grow tent now. I'll check on these every day, just like I do with any other plants that I would be growing. And it'll take a while to gauge just exactly how much water I need to use and when I need to lower the lights or raise the lights. I'll pay attention to the plants themselves because they'll give me a lot of information. If they're starting to grow long and leggy, that means the light needs to be closer to the plants or more intense. If everything is going great, then I know that my setup is working. And as the plants grow taller, I'm all ready to raise the lights as needed. If you want to see more about how I set up this grow tent, go ahead and look at one of these videos next. I'm Gardener Scott. Enjoy gardening.